Hi and welcome back to the MP7 build. If you've just finished watching the old episode or you've been waiting for an update on this build project, I know many of you have been messaging me asking me a few things. You guys have been, if you haven't ordered this kit already, you're already thinking about it and you're concerned about the issues that we had with it. So this is just a carry on from that, and we're just going to sort of address the issues that we have. Now the main two issues that I've got are the fact that we've got no full auto because that micro switch isn't being pressed, and we've got a leak from this hose as well. And under close inspection, once I was having a look at this, which we'll see in just a second, this hose is really loose. It just turns on the fitment. So what I'm actually going to do, I put this back on here after looking at it and I can't get it off. It's just literally a friction fit. There's nothing really sealing it. The black bits that you can see there are just parts of the hose. So what I'm actually going to do, because this hose is actually quite long, I'm actually going to trim about 2 inches off, maybe 2 inches, 2.5 inches off. I'll bring that up there because it's quite long anyway. We don't need it that long. Let's take the magazine out. Let's pop the front off. So we've got all the electronics and such in there. But first, because we're going to be looking at the other issue as well, I'm going to take the iron sights off and just make sure we can access everything fairly easy, because I dare say these two issues are going to be fixed quite swiftly. And it's always a pleasure to work on these guns in your own time. This build project of mine has been sort of a selfish project because it's a gun that I own, it's not anything to do with the business. And it's great working on these things, they're a lot of fun to work on. Sometimes, depending on how much you like teching, these issues aren't always such a big problem, because, you know, fixing them and such is part of the fun to it as well. You might have a different view, that's perfectly fine. Just take this top section off here, the 2.5 Allen key. Just remember these are different sizes, and if you sort of, if you work on guns like I do, you've always got a system, and the way that I always take things out, if you don't want to sort of measure them and make sure they go back in the right place, there's a very simple way. I'm sure I'm just telling you how to suck eggs here, but many of you do say, how do you make sure all the parts go back in the same place? And literally what I'm doing is I'm taking these top screws off. I know these 3 screws are to the top rail, the 2 to the rear are shorter, the one at the front's longer, so I'll take that off, and the screws are in line of where they've got to go back. If you don't really want to be paying massive attention to where your screws are going and you don't know which screws go where, it's a simple system you can use for each component you take off. However, I digress. So we've got all these bits and pieces in. We're going to take the rest of the bits off. Let's just take that screw out there. Again, just set it to one side. I'm going to take the spring off for the charging handle. And then we need to remove these two 2mm Allen keys. So I'll just do that real quick. I think they were only finger tight anyway. But if you've been enjoying this build, be sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification. I'm sure I waffle on as much as many other YouTubers do. It just makes you aware. If we put a new episode up, it just alerts you, and it even links to, like, say if you've got YouTube on your phone, it just gives you a bit of a notification that a new video has been posted. So we're just going to pull these pins out the back here, and then we're going to pull the stock section away. And it isn't even here, so I am having a bit of a tipple, so always drink responsibly, of course. So we can see, I'm not sure if you can see this, well, you can there, there's the micro switch, here's the bar that activates it. Let me just get this in a way that you can see it best. Let's try it that way, there we go. So the select lever pushes, and it's literally only marginal, it's just not enough to make that positive click. So I've actually thought about this, how the best way to do it. We could literally pull this thing apart and check where the fitment's wrong. This could have been screwed in the wrong place. It's in there quite secure at the moment, so we obviously, many of you don't know this, we do a lot of tech work at Bespoke, and in regards to fitting gate tighten MOSFETs, if you're sort of clued up on those with the version 3 gearboxes, they give you these little plastic shims for the trigger. It's like a little bit of clear plastic that's sticky backed, and you can put them on your trigger for your AK and such to shim it out and sort of remove the backlash. And these are going to be perfect. You get like 3 sizes: 0.5mm, 0.3mm, and 0.15. I imagine we're not going to need much. I'm probably going to try it with a 0.3 first. And like I say, you could use anything for this application. You could literally just use a real thin piece of like duct tape or gaffer tape, whatever you call it. All you're doing is just adding an extra little bit of meat, because it's literally fractions of a millimetre too far away. So you can see there, it's really thin. It's not going to cause any issue. What I'm going to do is cut this to the size of the micro switch and then just put it on there, and we should be rocking and rolling. So I'm just going to pull the hose fitment out. But honestly, I think if we cut the hose and sort of attach this back on, I think it's going to be okay. It does it's very hard to pick up on camera, but it does feel like this is slightly flared out, and it's very rigid. So it'd be nice if they came with a fitment sort of similar to what's on the opposite side, like a push fit, because the push fit's very good. We might in future try and, like I say, remove this and fit something else. So let's pop that to one side. I'll deal with that in a moment. We're going to want to pull the engine out, so let's pull the electronics out the front. There we go. Let's take the FCU off. So you can see there, can you see here? Let me zoom in. The selector pushes it about that far, but it's that extra click that we need. Oh. I promise I haven't had too much to drink tonight. This is my first one. I was really sucking with that screw there. Ah, now this is interesting. Take a look at that. There's 2 sets of holes. That's very weird. So it's almost like they were put on and then they were changed. How strange is that? Don't know if the camera can pick that up there. So I don't know whether this is some assembly error. So it would have sat like that. Now if we push it into the position where it was, that's actually a fair bit of difference, that. Let's say it's about 2 or 3 mils difference. We can try and pop this through the original holes. I don't know. Do they do this because there's variance in the years of these MP7s? I'm really not sure. It hasn't been screwed into that hole again because the hole is absolutely fresh. There's no, it's not loose or like it's been threaded. That's very strange. Is it just a case of the person who was assembling this wasn't paying attention? I mean, if anyone out there has contact with the guys that put these kits together, I'd love to know. But I'm wondering if we assemble that into the other holes that were there. And if you're out there and you've got one of these kits, and you've had it apart, and yours is the same, and you've got these two holes where this sits, because now that sits a lot further over. So we might have a mystery solved here. Let's reassemble. Pin in. Pin in. Let's put the screws on for good. Oh no, I've gone too far, god damn it. Need to put the air hose on first, so let's solve that. Let's take that back off. Getting ahead of myself. Hokely pokely, I've literally cut perhaps an inch off. I didn't want to go too far. And we're going to pop this back on. It's probably going to be hard to do, so put that on a flat surface and force it downwards. Is that on all the way? Feels a lot. It doesn't spin now. It used to spin before. You could literally twizzle it round. So, oh god, it could be easier than anticipated. Take this sheath off so it's easier to put on. Let's pop these wires out of the way. Job done. Let's get the stock back in there. Screw on the charging handle, rinse and repeat. Battery on, done. FCU's booted. Let's be quiet so you can hear this. So we've got safe, semi, and auto. No auto. What the hell? What on earth? I'm sure that's pressing that button now.
A few inches later.
If you leave me now, take away the biggest part of me.
12 seconds later.
You work for me now. You'll make me really, really happy. Ooh, no, baby, please don't break.
Tomorrow for sure.
I want some suppressed MP7 awesomeness. This little screw. Baby screw, do 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 do, baby screw, do do. No.
Eventually.
The moment of truth. So, it would seem that that microswitch still, even though I moved it from the sort of the more rearward set of holes to the more forward set of holes, it seemed that even with that, when the screws are in, obviously the screws are smaller than the holes through the little microswitch, so it could move slightly, like fractions. So all I've done, loosened the two screws up on the microswitch, canted it that way a little bit more forward, tightened them down while holding it in place. This might not be the most reliable method, but I want to run this thing, I want to see what it's like. But I've got some floor goodness. I need to go dust off the regulator. So, found a tank, got some air, some carbon fibre goodness. And this regulator, which I have kept since I had, in fact no, it's not since I had my first Polar Star, because I'm pretty sure I sold it, so it would have been, in fact no, it might be the original. It's covered, absolutely covered in dust, where it's been moved around. Let's see if she still holds a seal. Where's the... This is what I don't like about the red line regulators. They're just so massive and higgledy-piggledy. Probably going to put like a Wolverine one on there. So let's just try it with a touch of PSI. I've never been so scared to turn a regulator on in my life. Come on. Where's the resistance? Huh. Oh. What the what the is that all about? I screwed it in all the way and we had no PSI, and then I've backed it off slightly. It's reading 120. Ah. Deploy the metric system, Jesus. 85, 90 PSI set on the regulator. I'm amazed that regulator's still working. It has been moved around the workshop for years, getting covered in pretty much everything you can think of. Yeah, we're still leaking. That is like the crappiest fitment ever. £500 worth of, like, you know, HPA conversion. Oh God, that's disgusting. Well, I need to put the battery on. That'd help, wouldn't it? We have air. Woohoo! God, that is loud. Right, let's disconnect you from the air just for the moment. Let's try and assemble this. Oh, that didn't feel good, but we has battery, we has air, we has full auto everywhere. Oh, that's so loud. This is like the cheapest, nastiest suppressor I could find. I honestly can't. I've been looking at suppressors since I've been doing this HPA build, and I haven't found anything that I quite like yet. But if you've got a round, you got to simulate having a round in it. Let's go shoot this mother. Well, I am super pleased with the sound. It probably sounds really loud in here with the suppressor on, but it really isn't. Still getting the full auto issue. But I can already imagine being in a game with this and being hunkered down somewhere nice and quiet. And once there's rounds in this, it's even quieter. You're just going to be so super sneaky. It's going to be like having a Mark 23 pistol on full auto, hooked up to an air tank. It's going to be cool. So I think I've pretty much covered everything there. We've got the HPA kit installed. The next video will probably be trying to be using this in game. And then I might do a conclusion to the kit. Obviously, it hasn't been plain sailing. It's been an absolute pain in the arse. But I don't think we stop there. There's, like I say, there's a CNC hop unit that you can get for this thing for the Polar Star Jack. So we'll probably pick one of those up just to pair with the rest of the parts. I mean, if you're in a game and you get stuck with that issue where it won't shoot full auto, it's not the end of the world. If you're doing buildings and such anyway, you won't be able to use full auto, so most of the time you're going to be using single shot. But you could never make a TM AEP MP7 with a normal gearbox in one of these things be that snappy and that reliable. You know, it's just absolute. See, we've still got the issue. Oh, I'm gonna need more mags. See you in the next video.
Do when you're next to me.